Hey everyone, I'm going to show you how to actually stylize the storyline default player and change the colors to whatever color you want to. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. I have my storyline project, just a simple project. In fact, I have 3 pages here that just have text. Really not much to it. I'm going to go ahead and publish this out. In fact, before I publish this out, let me actually show you inside of the colors and effects in the player. If you go into the dark or the light, there's really not much that you can change here. You can change the accent color, you can change the focus color, you can change the text and so forth, but you can't get into the details. Like you can't change the color to blue, you can't change the color to red or anything like that to kind of match your style. But we're going to create some custom CSS, and we're going to identify things that we can change with our own CSS. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this out as a dark style. So I'm going to select dark here and then go ahead and click OK. And then once I come into publish and then go ahead and select the web, I can select where I want this to be published to. Let's select it to my desktop and then click on select folder. Now, as soon as I hit publish, it's going to publish all of the files for me. And you're going to have this folder on your desktop right here. Now I'm going to open up this folder inside of Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is a free download. It's a text editor that I think is pretty easy to use. So you can go ahead and open this up inside of Visual Studio Code. And then we're going to create our own custom CSS. So I'm going to, with the folder open, I'm going to go ahead and select the story_content. And then I'm going to create a new CSS file. Let's call this mystyle.css and then go ahead and hit enter. Now this is where I can add custom CSS and I can identify what parts of the player that I want to change and then add that inside of here. But we need to attach this to our story file in order for this to take effect. So I'm going to come back into my story.html, and down at the bottom here, we're going to link our main CSS file. This is normal HTML development. This is how you attach a CSS file. So I'm going to just type in link and then select where it has the link :CSS and then hit enter. Now inside of this href, I'm going to go ahead and delete what's there, and I'm going to start typing in the path to that CSS file. So when you're going to link a file, if it's inside of a folder, then you basically type in the name of the folder / and then the name of the file. So I'm going to start to type in story, and you can see the hints that pop up inside of Visual Studio Code. I can go ahead and just select the drop-down box, from the drop-down box, the story_content. And then it's going to show me all of the different files that are inside of this folder. I can go ahead and select the mystyle.css and hit enter. Now this CSS file is attached. So any CSS that I put inside of here will actually take effect, and you'll see that. Now, the reason why I put it down at the bottom is because when an HTML file starts to run, it runs from top to bottom. So anything that will start to apply, you want your style to be the last thing to apply, because it will override anything else that's already been applied. Because if you apply it first, then all of Storyline's default styling will get applied later. And so it's important to do this last. All right, so let's go ahead and preview this. Now I have live server extension installed in my Visual Studio Code. You can come into the extensions tab here, and then you can type in live server, and this will show you the little plugin you can install, and this allows you to preview and changes immediately here. So I'm going to come back into my files extension over on the left-hand side, and then go back into story.html. And now I can go down to the bottom with the live server installed. You see this button down here that says go live. I'm going to go ahead and select that, and it's going to preview my course here. So I'm going to bring this in here, and you can see that it has my course. I can go ahead and hit resume, and there it is. This is the default storyline player, so it's really, it's really dark here, but there's some things that we can change inside of here. So if I go ahead and I select this file and I right click and I go to inspect element, this will allow me to see the different colors and the different properties that are applied to this element. So if I start to come down, I can select different objects. I can see what the bottom bar is. I can see what the the wrapper on the side or the menu on the side is as well. And I want to find those different classes that apply here. Now I'm doing this in Safari. You can do this in Chrome. You can do this in Firefox as well. But I'm going to come back in here and right click over the element that I want. And you can see right here, we have this frame class or this frame ID. And I'm trying to find this background right here. So this background, I can just select that class right here. If you're not seeing it, if you see a different window like this, like the computed or changes or anything like that, make sure you go into styles to be able to see those styles. All right, so I'm going to select that class and I'm going to select the entire class and just hit copy. Now we're going to go into our main CSS here and I'm going to just paste in that class, and then I'm going to have an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket. Now with CSS, you're really just applying properties and changing the values of the properties in order to get the style that you want. So with this class enabled, I can start to add those different properties. If I come back into my browser here, you can see that the property that's applied to this one is the background color, or just background, and then we have a color of 282828. I'm going to just apply that background color here as well. And we're just going to do it as background, but we're not going to do the 2828. In fact, I'm going to pick a different color. I'm going to use my color picker app right here. And I'm going to choose this color right here. It's kind of this darker blue. So now if I just paste in that hex value and then hit enter, I can save that and now come back in and preview the change that I've made. You may have to hit refresh, but you'll notice that it's now changed that color. So I can go in and start to pick and choose the different colors that I want. If I right click over here and come into inspect element, you can see the outline color here. And you can see here is a class right there, the color, and it has the RGBA 45451. Now, if you wanted to, you can actually change the color and kind of test it out in here. It doesn't make the permanent change, but I can at least come in here and kind of change out a color and hit enter and then see if anything changes over on the left-hand side here, which it doesn't in this case. So I'm not really grabbing the right thing here. I may need to go in and drill down a little bit more, kind of this scroll bar area, or maybe even scroll bar panels here, and find something that has that color. Let me right click again. And I think it has it, but it's not actually changing the color. So let's grab that outline. Let's come into our CSS and we could test it out there and just say background as well. Let's make sure it's background. Well, that's the color of the text actually. So I have this color of the text, but let me just find the color of the actual background here. So let's go back up here. So sidebar, looks like we have a color right there. Let's try changing that. And there we go. That's exactly what we want, is that color right there. So I know I have the right class. I'm going to copy that class. I'm going to come back into here and let's change this out. And we're going to change the background of that class. So coming back in here, let's do a background color. But instead of this color, we're going to make it slightly darker in the menu. So I'm going to go into my color app, or instead of Visual Studio Code, when you hover over a color, you'll get this color picker and you can kind of slide it down and make it a little bit darker there. So now let's actually copy this entire color. And now let's make this one a little bit darker by sliding it down. So that way we keep the color from the previous one and then we change the color here. Now, if I save that, let's go ahead and come back in here and hit refresh. You can see that now the menu is a little bit darker than the main content here. Now, there's still some things that I'd want to change. So you have like the hover of the menu items, you have the text color as well. So you'll have to do this and identify the things that you want to change here. Now, I've already gone through and I've done that with some of these files. In fact, I'm going to close this one out and I'm going to open up this folder and I'm going to go ahead and in the story content folder, I'm going to delete the My Style CSS and I'm going to go ahead and paste this one in here. Now this one has all of the different classes that I've identified that allow you to, that will make it so it changes the color in all aspects and the hover and everything like that. So now if I come back into here and I hit refresh here, you'll notice that it looks a little bit better. We have our icons changed. We have our hover on our menu changed as well. So I tried to grab all the different aspects here. And in fact, I'm going to allow you to download this mystyles.css from my Learning Dojo website. If you go to learningdojo.ninja, and then if you go to downloads, you can download this CSS. If I come back into mystyle.css, this is all the different colors that I've changed. And so I changed the base, I changed the side menu. So side menu left, side menu hover as well. That gets the hover, the buttons in the menu, so the hover state, so that color is changed, as well as the icons. So down here, the different icons, I've changed the colors for that as well. So you could actually attach this CSS to your published project and then just go in and change this however needed to match your colors. So one thing to keep in mind, though, is you will have to attach the CSS every time you actually export it out, or find this CSS file, the main CSS file, and then attach it there. But for now, if you wanted to just apply this when you publish it out, you may, if there's any updates with Storyline, you may need to actually go in and change it later, or you may not. So it just depends there. That's kind of the risk that you run, is sometimes if they update it, they may change a class or something like that. And so you may need to go back in and address that. But it's always just coming back into here. It's just right clicking, going to inspect element, and then finding the colors, and then just changing the colors and so forth allows you to get a very custom look and feel. All right, so that's how you go in and you change the style of the player from a published Storyline course. If you wanted to learn more, go ahead and check out my website at learningdojo.ninja. You could check out my blogs. You can check out my templates, which is where I'll have my styles.css file that you'll be able to download. You can also check out my Udemy courses, all on Storyline 360, Captivates, XAPI as well, and check out more there. But thank you for taking the time to watch this video.